Welcome, everyone, to Stepping Into Your Leadership. I'm your host, Christine Courtney. Our goal here is to give you some actionable takeaways that will help you lead your teams. Thanks for joining us on this leadership journey. Let's get started. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Leadership Summer Studio. I am back in the studio today with two of our fan faves, Blonka Winkfield and Tom Armstrong, and they are here today to take up the challenge, the summer challenge of a very quick summer version of Stepping Into Your Leadership, where we handle one difficult employee and how they might handle it. They could agree, they could disagree, they could add on. They have no idea what I'm going to hit them with. You at home can listen along and see if you have some different ideas, or maybe this gives you some way to handle this person who you're struggling with. Afterwards, we'll jump to a lightning round where we have 2 minutes for them to answer as many leadership questions as they can. All right, here we go. Today, our difficult employee is named Michael. Michael. We all have had a Michael in our lives at some point. And this Michael is a senior analyst who frequently displays a negative attitude toward new projects and changes, demoralizing his teammates and resisting efforts to innovate. During recent project planning sessions, he openly criticized new initiatives and expressed doubts about their success, discouraging his team from embracing new ideas. Tom, this sounds like you.
I like Michael. A little bit like me in some ways. Okay, so first of all, when I hear people complain about someone in the room who doesn't embrace every new change, it's important to do change management. Maybe this is someone who's really good at identifying risks ahead of time. I've noticed that a lot. I work also with some, and I will give people feedback who are the one person in the room who's challenging our biases and groupthink. I will approach that person and say, when you're challenging our groupthink, it makes us really look at things differently. And it's a very valuable voice to have in the room. And I really appreciate you, because sometimes they can feel very isolated. And the reason why they're pushing back, there might be a perception that it's because they're just negative. But actually what they're doing is protecting the company. They're the person who's out there looking in the field, looking out for the lions to make sure there's no lions that are going to come attack the village, right? They're alert. And so they're paying attention. They're not just going like, oh yeah, everything's good. It's important to have optimism in the company and people that are like free thinkers and going, yes, and that yes, and thing. I think it's also important to have at least one voice in the room that's saying, whoa, everybody, but are you paying attention to this? Because if you're not, it could be a future problem. And it's true. Sometimes those people it can also be coupled with what would be perceived as a negative attitude. You cannot coach negative attitude, but what you can do is give this person guidance by celebrating the positive impact they have on the team, and then giving them feedback, especially if they're your direct report, giving them actionable feedback on how to deliver their information in a way that can actually make the group feel supported and open still. Because you don't want to close. It's possible to give this kind of like, oh, there's a lion out there and now everybody's afraid. And when people are afraid, all the amygdala stuff that Christine talks about and the brain shuts down, you're no longer able to really think creatively. So that is a negative impact that particular behaviors that Michael is having, that's happening on the group. I could talk about those specific behaviors, never about the attitude, because that's very abstract. But talk about the specific behaviors that he could change, just a little bit of engineering to his approach that'll make him so much more of a powerful leader, because he's super important in that room. But drawing people down potentially. So how can he do it in a way that lifts people up? So that's the way I would approach it, I guess. Okay, Blonka?
I think he's hit it all. Like, I don't really have a whole lot to say after that. But yeah, because that's the main thing. I think normally it is in those scenarios, the person, I'll say most of the time, doesn't want to be negative or doesn't want to be seen that way. That's just, they are disagreeing. And as Tom said, that voice in a room is a very important one. We've talked before, I'm sure Christine's mentioned it before, about, the Disney model. You have the optimist, the dreamer, and it's important to have that in the realist, the person who is there saying this could work, it could not work, and giving the reasons why. It's all in the delivery, of course. And so if he is being negative to others, as Tom said, that's where you have to have really big conversations about the behavior that they're exhibiting and not the attitude.
And not to go too far into geopolitics with this, but nations go to war all the time because you have a president surrounding himself or herself with like-minded people, and there's no one in the room who's willing to stand up and say, this is a bad idea. and then you end up with a lot, like, I'm serious. It's at a very high level in society, and it comes all the way down to what happens in the workplace. This guy's voice is needed. Yeah. So that's it for me.
I wanted to disagree a little bit, because the thing I thought about at first was this idea of that person being a senior analyst, is that potentially the decision has already been made. So they're voicing their discontent with the idea to the team feels a little wrong. I want to talk about those things. Like, depending on where we are in the decision-making process, like I love that Blonka mentioned the Disney model of the critic, the dreamer and the realist. And that during the brainstorming process, right? Like when you're running your meetings, you can say, hey, we're actually in the brainstorming phase, or can you wait till we're in this phase of the meeting to have your opinions? Then we can, because we don't want to stifle anyone's brainstorming. But if this is something that, as a senior analyst, we've already kind of discussed, and this is the decision that the company has made, this is not the time for you to have your opinion.
Yeah, this is very, very true what she's saying. I have had conversations before, and this is my attitude towards this too. It's maybe controversial, I don't know. But I feel that at this level, especially senior analyst, if I'm really disagreeing with something, that conversation should happen behind the scenes, not in front of the team. So I'll have that conversation. And I learned this along the way. I wasn't perfect at this, and I still am not. But it's like I should have that conversation with the high level folks. And then once my boss and once the team says, this is the plan, if I really disagree with the plan, when I step in front of the team, it's my plan.
Yeah.
Because I'm hired by this organization to produce a certain kind of result. And like I said, I haven't always been perfect at this. I've learned a lot over the years, right? But it's like, unless something slides into this is now unethical for me, I can't stand behind this because it's unethical. But then I have to think about, should I even work here, right? If it's that kind of a situation. But as long as it's like, I just don't like this plan. But once the decision's made, it is my plan. I support it completely in front of my direct reports. They think, for all they know, and they're complaining about it, I'm not going to say I have the same issues with it. I have to hide my dislike. And so I will have that conversation also with Michael. I forgot for a second. The fact he's a senior analyst really changes the dynamics tremendously, to Tatiana's point. And so that's the conversation I would have with Michael. It's like, you're in a leadership position, buddy. You gotta, there's different expectations for how you discuss projects than with others. This is what we need from you. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's always a joy when Tatiana jumps in and adds her 2 cents and makes Tom realize how he's wrong. I'm kidding. And I also love how Tom made a plug for himself as should be in every global leader's cabinet,
Come on.
And Tom, I agree. You are a wonderful realist that helps us see oftentimes where we're going to go off track on things. All right, here we go. We're going to go to a lightning round now where I'm going to ask you as many leadership questions as we can get done in 2 minutes. You guys ready?
Yes.
Okay, Blonka, I'm going to start with you this time. Then we'll go to Tom. Then Tom, the second question goes to you, Blonka, and so forth. Okay. So the first question is, Blonka, name a leader you admire and why.
That's so hard. Sounds so cliche. This woman who's she was the head of our meditation sangha, Gina Sharp, amazing woman, and just how she lived her life and the examples that she set for us on a daily basis, not outside of, our practice, but just in her whole entire life. I really, really admire her. And she's, a woman of color. So there's just a lot of advice and information she gave me about how to live my life, particularly as in a leadership kind of capacity.
Love it. Tom?
This is a funny one, I guess. But, when I was in school, I used to love to push my buttons on the teachers, push their buttons. The teachers who you push the button, it never bothered them. They just maintained their calm. I respected them. I learned a lot from them and I admired them for that. I'm like, oh, you're solid. And so I like that kind of leadership too, and that's also then I learned how I try to sort of mimic that when people are trying to push my buttons a little bit at work. I'm like, you're not going to even see how I feel about this right now. I'm going to be cool.
Oh,
watch out.
So do you have a person or just general teachers?
Oh, yeah. Miss Cohen. She was awesome at this. Yeah. At Swim High School. She was a substitute teacher. She was great though.
Okay. What is the word? Tom, what's either a great or a terrible TV or movie boss?
Oh, I love this. So I had never seen the movie Devil Wears Prada. And then I saw it on an airplane. I was like, great movie. I can't believe I never saw it. And Anna Wintour, right? So Meryl Streep's playing her, the Vogue editor. I think she was a cool boss. Everybody says she's the worst boss, But I was like, I like her a lot because it's a little bit like the Marines. If you can survive this, and people sometimes gather around that and they want that. And I liked her leadership, even though I would never behave like she did, but I would actually kind of thrive with that kind of leader in that environment. It has to be super high level though, like Vogue, like, in the fashion scene, you want to be with the best. Then you're going to have this, like, I thought she was pretty cool.
That's great. Marines. Blonka.
My favorite is the boss in Blackish. He's hilarious and wrong in every single way. Like, he does not politically correct, doesn't want to work. He and Steve Carell in The Office are like my two favorite worst bosses. Like, they are hilarious.
It's so true.
What to do and not be a leader. Those two. Go.
Awesome. All right. Well, we used up our 2 minutes, but those were very good answers. Thanks for joining us today, Blonka and Tom. And thanks those of you who are listening out there to our summer series. I hope you get something out of it. And we'll see you next week with some new people in the studio and some new problem employees. Have a good summer.
Bye.
Bye. I can't believe your problem employee was based on me. I'm so...
Thanks, everybody, for listening. I'd like to give a special shout out to our podcast producer, Richard Francisco. Check out our notes for any details. And if you get anything out of this, please follow us. And if you enjoy it, please take a moment to rate us or write a comment. It will mean the world to us. We'd love to hear from you. And if you just can't get enough, follow me on TikTok and check out tlpnyc.com/podcast for more information.